The summer of 1993 saw an event that was very significant for Halloween Horror Nights that year. This event actually drew me into the park for the very first time outside of the event of Halloween Horror Nights. Yes, for the very first time I attended Universal Studios Florida during standard operating procedures, when it was a little weird to be there when it wasn't Halloween Horror Nights. It's like, I know this guy who went to Epcot all the time to the Food and Wine Festival, and one time he said, "Hey, let's go to Epcot." And I said, "Okay." And we went to Epcot, and he's looking around World Showcase like, he's good. Where are all the little food stands? Where are all the little food? Where are they? Because, you see, he didn't go there. He didn't realize it was a different event. See, he just by some coincidence, that's when he always went, and he didn't know that most of the time they didn't have that. And I tried to explain that. It's only, like in the fall when they have the Food and Wine Festival, and he goes, "Then what's the point?" And I sort of understand that in some degree, because, so most of the times I've been to Universal Studios has been during Halloween Horror Nights. So it does seem a bit odd whenever I do go there when it isn't Halloween Horror Nights. It's like something's off, something's missing. It's just, But I went there for a very important reason. Something not just me, but the whole universe, it seemed, had been waiting for 3 years. Waiting and waiting in breathless anticipation when they finally got that shark to work. Yes, Jaws the ride at Universal Studios Florida finally became operational. Yes, the little shark finally would work, and we could get on that boat ride and enjoy really bad jokes being told while we were trapped on a boat and not able to swim for shore, because to get away from the really bad jokes told by the captain, just like at that other place on that jungle ride where really, what is it? We're going to write a spiel for a guy who's captaining a boat in a ride, and we'll put in the worst jokes we can think of because they can't get away because they're on a boat. That's what it is. They're sadists who write the spiels for attractions of theme parks when they're on a boat. See, and that's what they do. That's how they get their kicks. Universal Disney doesn't matter. The same demented people must be working there. Okay. One of my mad theories, I suppose. But, yes, the shark worked, and the ride was wonderful, and I enjoyed it, and I've ridden it many times, of course, and I like to make up my own lyrics to the theme music, because I'm demented, something like, "Oh my God, they better swim to shore, or that big shark is gonna bite you!" Oh, that was stupid. Never mind. Something like that. Terrible thing. It sounds better when you've had some beers and fish and chips over an amity and you're feeling kind of in the mood for the park. And never mind. Okay, getting back to it. Now, occurred to me while I was enjoying the sharky delights of Jaws that this is the big new ride, and they're going to want to keep this open, so there's not going to be a haunted house here. That's not going to happen this year. Oh my God, that was the big haunted house. That was the center of the event for the past 2 years. What are we going to do? Will there be a Halloween Horror Nights, a Halloween party this year? What's going to happen? It was a bit of apprehension, and I'm pretty sure there were probably other people who'd enjoyed the 2 previous years were beginning to worry. But then we were reassured. Before all the advertisements started to pop up, the reassuring sign was an advertisement in newspapers. It was in the want ads. Just a weird little thing in the want ads. Not just in local papers in Orlando, but all across the nation. From New York to California, people would open up the newspapers and there'd be a little thing saying, "Wanted, someone willing to lie in a coffin with 100 rats." And this ad became a sensation, and it started an amazing amount of nationwide publicity for an event that is happening for only 5 nights in Orlando. That October, yes it did, publicity started to become nationwide. It was this year that commercials started to be shown not just in Orlando but across the country for the event of Halloween Horror Nights, to get people to travel and book to come to Florida in October just for that. That's when it really started in. Of course, we're talking about the Rat Lady. So those 5 nights, once again, bad case of the Halloween flu, and nevertheless I get there. Well, the streets were interesting. You know, it was a lot of similarities to the previous year. There was Robosaurus, and they also had some other things in the streets. There was a crossbow act, with arrows, and there was also this really nifty sort of thing, tombstone, coffin guy being burned up in cremated illusion. So it looked like someone was being burned up to ashes right in front of you. It was one of those little street freak show things. Those kind of people came back, like the guy with the blockhead would put the nails into his, that sort of thing. All of that, and so a lot of that came back. Of course, there was another most excellent Bill and Ted show, Bill and Ted's second annual excellent Halloween adventure, and that was, as it continued and began to develop the formula of Bill and Ted, there's a nemesis, and they have to go collect people from time to battle each other, and then musical numbers at the end. This formula continued to be developed pretty much along the ways. I don't for the life of me remember who the villain was in 1993. I'm sorry. There's been so many of them. Some years really stand out in my mind. This one didn't. The first just stands out. A couple other years, like Dr. Evil, whatever, they stand out very clearly. The Burger King versus McDonald one year, and Michael Jackson another year. Certain things really stand out over the years. This one was a little blur, so I'm not quite sure. I seem to think it involved Jason and Freddy and those type of creatures again, because they were still Halloweening. It still hadn't gotten away from Halloween as much as, I know it's a Halloween event, but the shows eventually got way away from Halloween, except from an occasional jack-o'-lantern on the set. But the first couple of years they tried to make it more Halloween themed. And of course all of that was all fun and games, but then of course we have the show. The houses. The houses are what's important. And the first, of course, People Under the Stairs. People Under the Stairs, I'm pretty certain all they did was leave the sets and the sound stage the whole year. It may not be what they did, but they have a lot of sound stages, and they weren't using them like they originally thought they're going to be making movies at Universal. In 1990 they thought, oh yeah, we're going to be making movies and TV shows here all the time, but turned out not to be Hollywood East like we thought. People who moved to Florida thinking it was going to be a boom town for the film industry were sadly disappointed. By 93, 94, it was pretty clear it wasn't quite what they had thought it would be or had hoped it would be. So yeah, there was soundstage space they could just leave alone, and I'm sure they left that set sitting there to use again the following year. They toned that house down a tad. you know, people complaining about their clothes and their hair having little bits of gooey blood and flesh that was splattered on the previous year. Yeah, so they toned that down a tad, but it was still a cool house. But they needed other houses, because they can't just go by people under the stairs alone. Where would they put them, and what would they be? Well, one answer came from an iconic franchise of horror that had been at Universal Studios since the park had opened, whose presence had always been felt, because looming high on the hilltop was the Bates family mansion, and underneath, as I had been assured, was the Bates Motel. And yeah, that day when I went on Jaws, I didn't go by that part of the park, apparently. But yes, the Bates Motel was there year-round. And lovely place, the Bates Motel. Yes. You'll have a good time staying there. Mother Bates usually doesn't show herself very often, but the proprietor, her son, young Master Bates, will be very glad to give you a hand in finding the lovely amenities in your cabin. Cabin 1, however, has some trouble with the lavatories, I'm afraid. Many of our guests have had a very unfortunate tendency of having themselves murdered in the shower facility, which causes the drain to become clogged, and therefore it might back up on you. So we recommend sponging. Hello? It got dark and Ah! Is it still going? Okay. For a second there I thought I was losing my camera, right in the middle of my very bad Alfred Hitchcock impression. Miss Norman had some interesting hobbies, including taxidermy, where he would stuff birds all day long, just stuffing and stuffing those birds, which means something very naughty in England, because I'm a naughty boy. Okay, enough of my bad Hitchcock impression. Anyway, we had the whole Psycho setup. So why not? We put the house there. Of course. Psychopath is what it was called. The Psychopath. Get it? And you would go through the motel, and be stalked by Norman and his evil alter ego, his own twisted mother, with her sharp, pointy knife. Yes, chased by transvestites with knives. What fun. Cross-dressing horror. And then, of course, the other house. Well, they decided to use an area of New York Street. 2 or 3 buildings had open warehouse-type storage rooms, and they could use that for a haunted house. Plus, the alleyways in between them could be boarded up and over, and they built in that area by the Nazerman's pawn shop, and they just called it Nazerman's for lack of any other name, in that Sting Alley area, into a house. And the first time they used that was 1993, and they called it the Slaughterhouse. And this was one of the first really, let's just balls out make it as gory as possible houses, where you had corpses drenched in blood hanging that you'd have to work your way through, and lunatics with scalpels or not, cleavers, I think it was, cleavers, and here to hack you to bits. The idea was you're in a slaughterhouse, except instead of, cows, it's humans. And the whole cannibal theme, which has been another connection for you LT people, all the way from the slaughterhouse to Meats to what comes next. Because the idea of some kind of slaughtering meat facility for neat-to-eat meat that's human, has been continued for years, and it was a part of this right here in Slaughterhouse. It would continue to Hell's Kitchen the following year, which was even better than the Slaughterhouse. So that's That was the other house. Really fun. So we have 3 houses now instead of just 2 or 1. And I'm running out of time, so that'll have to be it. Next time, 1994.